there as many Democrats, many of those 700,000 people that are registered Republicans, or some of those Democrats that are voting Republican, are impacted in this way, and we need to keep that on their minds, what the difference is, because there's a difference. And they vote to help corporate interests, and it's against their own economic interests, right? So it's about voter education, and there's going to be a huge focus from the party's perspective on voter education and engagement. But it comes in coffee conversations just like this. You know, when you're in the cleaners, when you're in the grocery store, you hear somebody saying something crazy, you help educate them. It doesn't have to be formal.
Senator?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like you to talk about these the cuts to the Medicaid program, and I think specifically about how some of your colleagues, making discussions with your colleagues, since cuts have come down, because the government has gone to great lengths not to involve lawmakers in the decisions, and try to keep the decision kind of closely back. And how have those conversations been? How are they feeling about some of the decisions that are being made?
Well, most are disgruntled. Most are very disappointed, but many of the Republicans are quiet. There's an exception to that. There's a guy named Fred Mills who was a Democrat. He's from Lafayette area, or actually New Iberia. And he's a senator. He was in the House, served with him in the House. And he is a pharmacist. And he went from Democrat to Republican. That's what I'm saying. When it touches your pocket,
Yes.
all of a sudden, was a Democrat less than a year ago, switched to Republican, a pharmacist, serves on the Senate Health and Welfare Committee, and he's one that is saying, hold up, this new Medicaid policy, I don't like it, right? And so we're actually working with him to try to get some of these oversight hearings so that legislators can weigh in a little bit more. But like I said, the chairman of the Senate Health and Welfare Committee has been muzzled. It's very hard when you're, and he's a Democrat, worried about a chairmanship. Unless he's my friend. Gotta call it like I see it. You can't call it. So I'm trying to figure out, let me tell you what I'm trying to figure out. I serve as the chairman of the, I don't even get a standing committee anymore. I used to be chair of insurance, and on the House side, I used to be Speaker Pro Tem. Governor Jindal said, he is tired of me asking questions. So he didn't put me on finance, remember? He took me off of all the committees when he came in this next term. Well, they gave me a chairmanship of something called the Select Committee on Women and Children. And I'm trying to figure out a way to put health care and put an agenda together so I can call my own meeting as chair of the Committee on Women and Children, because health care affects women and children, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, look, in the next 2 weeks, if he doesn't call his own committee, I'm going to have my own forum, and they will not like it. I promise. We're going to have it all laid out. But it's important. You're right. A lot of legislators are seeking information, so how can people get it if the legislators don't have it themselves? And so some of it takes initiative on your own as a legislator, but we're doing our part as a party and trying to be resourceful on the policy side. But anybody that wants information, let me encourage you to do this. If you're so willing, to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We're on Twitter at LA Demos. Our website will get you regular emails weekly on everything that we're doing and on policy issues like I've talked about. We send it out. We're now going to be sending out at the beginning of the week and the end of the week. We have that much of a need to get information out. That much of a need. And that's www.lademo.org. www.lademo.org. And you can sign up and you can be in the loop. Now, if you want to hear craziness, follow me at Team KCP. Because I will talk about folks. That's on Twitter. I tweet all the time. Tweeted the convention last week. Yes, we have one more. Is that okay?
Yeah, we'll take one more, then we have to wrap it up, because I know the students have to go to class.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Senator Peterson. I'm Tara Rick, Councilwoman for District 10. Nice to see you for District 10. And I want to just make a comment. Thank you very much for being here. You mentioned about the importance of making sure that we have the student population registered. And I had the unique opportunity through Dr. Hart to actually teach an American government class here. And our conversation was about local politics and the involvement of policy as it impacts their everyday lives. One thing that came out of the conversation was that we had a lot of students that were not from Baton Rouge or not from Louisiana that said that they were not registered here, they were registered at home. And they weren't going to register here because they really weren't necessarily connected here locally to local policy. especially in this race, because of course we have the national race. And I just want to see if you can actually speak to also the importance of while you're here in school, the importance of being connected, because what happens during those 4 years will impact your life now and possibly long term. Can you
Yes.
speak to that?
Yes. Thank you so much, Councilmember Whitaker. I think that it really is, I can be honest, it's an individual decision. Like right now, if somebody lived in Florida, anybody live in Florida, from Florida, or Pennsylvania, or Virginia, or Michigan, or Ohio, that's a swing state. I might want them to stay registered in those states, where those are states that are so critical for this election. I don't think about it always just myopically as Louisiana, right? On this presidential. This is unique though, right? But it is very important where you live to have an impact and have a voice where you live, right? And so if you can't just live on this campus in this southern community. When you go right outside of the campus and you cross the bridge, right? You're in the greater Baton Rouge area. If there's a big fat pothole somewhere, right, or some infrastructure, Mr. President, if there's stuff that you need done on this campus, the people that get it done are the people that are on the city council, the sheriff, right, the legislator that represents this area, and that in order to have the right representation, you need to participate locally where you live. Now you can re-register when you go back home, or if you choose to stay here, right? But if you want to be able to have the best representation, there's a reason why we have a representative form of government. It's more often than not, it's district specific. So only the people that live in that community. Well, Southern makes up a huge part of this legislative district and a huge part of this councilmanic district. And so if it's a local issue or a state issue, you should want the representative that's in the legislature or on the council or the sheriff or the mayor, you should want to vote and participate where you're going to be living for the next 4 years. Does that make sense? Right? And then you can do it right here on campus. There's nothing more convenient than voting right on campus. So I hope you all have that initiative on Saturday. I really do, to increase the voting rolls right here in Southern. Not just for the president, but for beyond. Thank you all for having me.